So you've decided to move to Houston, Texas, and you are asking yourself, could Houston be the place for me? Well, today I'm going to answer that question and many more, so stay tuned. If this is your first time on our channel, my name is Lauren, and I am part of a real estate group right here in Houston, Texas. We get calls every day from people just like you looking to relocate to the area. So if this sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you hit that bell, hit that subscribe button so you can get notified whenever we put new videos out. And don't forget to call, text, email, get a hold of us any way you can so we can help you with all of your real estate needs. So before we get started today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. I am a native Houstonian. I was born and raised in the area, and I have lived all around Houston. So I absolutely love it here. And today I'm so excited to share the pros and the cons. So where to even start? You guys, Houston is huge. It has 3 main loops that go around the city. You have 610, you have the Beltway 8, and then around that, pretty new, we have the Grand Parkway. Now the Grand Parkway goes all the way almost to the Woodlands, and if you don't know about the Woodlands, it was actually rated the #1 place to live in America by Niche this year. So that's really neat. Now, Houston has all sorts of great things, and of course there are some that aren't so great. We will start with traffic. So I know that I hear, especially whenever I talk to people from California, how terrible the traffic in various cities is. And I hate to tell you, but it's not a whole lot better here. So Houston has all these major roads, and since the city is top 3 in the nation, Fortune 500 companies, there are a lot of people living here. So you get a lot of people coming from the suburbs or whether they're traveling just around Houston, but it leads to a lot of congested roads. So it's always under construction, and that is certainly a big deal here. It's an ongoing joke that 290 will be under construction forever, which is probably true because everything just keeps growing, and the traffic definitely isn't fun. That being said, it's not so bad if you can avoid those rush hour traffic times. All right, so the first thing that we are gonna talk about is diversity. You guys, Houston is the #1 most diverse city in the nation, ranking up there with LA and New York. So that is really great for us. What that means is not only do we have a lot of different business avenues that go with that, but it leads to great food. And let me tell you, as a foodie, I absolutely love that. I mean, you can go to Houston, you can go to all the surrounding areas, and there is such a variety that you can get, and you can really just eat whatever you want. I mean, the food here is fantastic. And it also allows us to have a really beautiful cultural mix that has led to a lot of growth in the Houston area, which leads straight to job opportunity. You know, and job opportunity is huge here. We are #3 in the nation for Fortune 500 companies, and it really does well for our economy. The Texas economy is strong, especially in Houston, so it makes it a great place to live because not only do you get all this great cultural blend with all this fantastic food, but you also have all of the business opportunity that you could ever want. So in terms of job opportunities, everybody knows that Houston is a huge hub for oil and gas. There is no question about that. Out of the US publicly traded oil companies in the United States, 44 of 113 of them are located right here in Houston. They actually just built a huge new hub in the Woodlands as well. So you are not isolated to only downtown if you are interested in that industry, but it also spreads out to the suburbs, which gives you even more diversity in terms of where you can live. Oil and gas is not the only thing that we are known for. We are also known for our aerospace research. Everybody's heard the statement of Houston, we have a problem, because NASA is located right in South Houston. So we have a huge aerospace program, and we also have a huge medical center. So the Texas Medical Center, which is located right south of downtown, is the largest medical center in the world. They lead in innovation and science and technology, and all of these hubs of business not only lead to an extensive list of options for job opportunities, but it also trickles down because it leads to large fabrication operation as well as a huge need in terms of technological advances. So we bring a lot of scientists, a lot of doctors, a lot of some of the best researchers in the world right here into Houston to help really grow that positive vibe that we have here and to grow Houston into being one of the best places to live in America. It's not all roses though. We certainly have our downfalls. So while we're on the topic of traffic, I also hear a lot of people say that we drive really fast here. This is also true. Everybody goes real fast. You just kind of go with traffic and hope that that works out in your favor. If you are not one that just wants to kind of run with what everybody else is doing, which oftentimes leads to going 80 down 45 in a 65 mile an hour zone, I highly suggest you stay in the right 2 lanes because otherwise people get quite grumpy about it. But it is definitely true. That can definitely be considered a con if you are not willing to kind of roll with the punches on that one. We do have HOV lanes in a lot of the areas, and you also have different toll roads that can cut out some of the main traffic. But you know, depending, once you hit rush hour, even on the Beltway or some of these other toll roads that you have available, it's pretty congested. So the HOV lanes are helpful. I definitely like to use them whenever I'm leaving Houston. So that definitely makes that commute a little bit easier. Now I know I mentioned the, Texas Medical Center, which is fantastic. Definitely one of the biggest employers in the city, but you also have a lot of great hospitals scattered around town. There's a great hospital district in the Woodlands. There's a great one over in Katy. And there's some other ones that are peppered around the area. So you don't always have to drive downtown. But if you do really need that medical care and you want the best doctors, the medical center is the place to go. They also have an MD Anderson, which is, the top cancer hospital. And they have Texas Children's, which it really is a fantastic network, especially if you have a sick child. My daughter struggles with pulmonary issues, and I have really enjoyed being able to use their facilities and get to, work with some of the best children's pulmonologists in the world. So, those are just really big pluses for me. Especially as a mom and a wife and somebody who obviously just wants to make sure that their family has all the best care available. So our next big pro about living in Houston, Texas is the cost of living. Houston is actually 6.2% under the national average, and whenever you stick that in with all of the other great opportunities that you have out here and the fact that our state does not have a state income tax, that's a really huge plus. You can afford to do the things that you want, you can afford to buy the house that you want, and you don't have to worry so much about all those inflated prices. So our next big pro is going to be cost of living. So if you consider the 20 most populous cities in the nation, Houston is ranked number 2 for affordability, low cost of living. We are 6.2% under the national average. And that means that you get to buy the things that you want to buy. You get to live the life that you want to live without feeling the extra strain on financial pressure because of inflated prices. The other thing that comes with that is that our state does not have a state income tax. So that does really, really well here. I do get a lot of questions about property taxes. There seems to be a lot of misconception regarding the affordability of a home because of property taxes. So in terms of that, our property taxes range from the high 1% into the 3s. So let's talk about weather. Everybody knows that the weather in Houston is hot. It is not a rumor. I mean, it is sweltering probably a minimum of 8 months a year, so it's certainly something to note. That being said, the hurricanes are not as bad as everybody says. I know that we certainly have had some bad ones. There's no question about that, but I will say that if you do your research, you can make sure to stay out of those flood zones, because whenever those hurricanes come through, our bayous and rivers are designed to drain that water. So obviously there are other factors that come into play, but in terms of the weather, the heat definitely is probably a bigger complaint than the concern of hurricanes. And as we say here in Houston, it's not the heat, it's the humidity. Now with the weather, we can't forget to talk about the bugs. It is hot, we've talked about that, you know it's hot. With that heat, you end up with mosquitoes, you end up with very large bugs, including wood roaches, and if you've never seen one of those, they're huge. Good news is they are wood roaches for a reason, because they live in the trees, not your house, but you might have one fly in every now and then, and it is not ideal. You also have snakes out here, depending on where you are. You're not gonna see them in downtown Houston. You are certainly not gonna see them in huge populated areas, but they are certainly around, and they definitely come out as the weather gets warm, depending on where you are. So if you do end up going to some of the more woodsy areas like the National Forest, definitely watch out for snakes. We also have lots of spiders. This climate that we have down here is just very friendly to them, and the closer you live to the water, the more spiders you're gonna see. So if you end up somewhere like Lake Conroe, which is my favorite place, they are everywhere, and I would highly recommend getting a good pest company if you do decide to move to this area. Our next one is gonna be a con. In case you guys didn't know, Texas is huge, and that means that if you want to leave the state, you're gonna have quite the haul in front of you. So basically, we do not get very much snow here unless you are pretty far north, but in the Houston area, that's not so much a thing. You are not gonna get snow. We are not close to any ski resorts. You're probably gonna have to fly if you wanna go do that or do quite the drive. I know that our favorite place takes us 18 hours to get there. So, you know, it's certainly a trek if you wanna do that kind of thing often. Another con would be our beaches. I know that we have a beach, and if you hear anybody say we're going to the beach, they're talking about Galveston. It's not fantastic. You know, it's in the Gulf of Mexico, which means that we get all the sediment running down the Mississippi, and most of the year it's pretty brown. So we don't get the beautiful beaches here, but we do have a beach, and the fishing is fantastic. So that's always a plus. When we do get some serious winter weather, they are usually ice storms. And I know that I've heard a lot of people make fun of us that we don't know how to drive in the ice. That certainly is part of it. But the other issue is that, in short, with the amount of highways that we have, especially that are raised off the ground, allowing a lot of room for bridges and stuff, we just don't have the equipment to handle ice. So whenever it rains and freezes or ice is over, everything shuts down. School shut down, jobs shut down, the highways shut down because we have ice and we don't have the machinery to handle it. My husband was actually just talking about this the other day. We live up on Lake Conroe, and one time during a freeze in the neighborhood, the only way to get out was over 2 bridges. It was one bridge going toward Montgomery and one bridge going toward 45. And whenever he left for work that morning, there was a guy in the back of a pickup truck throwing salt out the back. Needless to say, he made the decision not to go to work that day. But if that would bother you, we don't handle the ice very well. So always something good to know. All right, well, that is it for today. I really hope you learned a little bit more about Houston and feel more comfortable with the city as a whole. Make sure that if you have any questions, concerns, or are looking for a home in the area, to give me a call, text, email, get a hold of me any way that you can, because I love nothing more than helping people find their dream home. Until next time, this is Lauren. Take care.